of parties, but also for the different stakeholders, constitutions. When you look at the entities, the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature, are they independent but yet operating for the same cause, which is democracy, and ensuring that everyone is enjoying their human rights, but more so everyone is having something delivered to them as they delivered the vote to those in leadership? It's a big question that still has no answer as far as Uganda is concerned. Anyway, we get back to Mr. Who is on the ground, Mfefesiwe Chibuga, and he's fefetaring somewhere. He's having a conversation with the outgoing Uganda Law Society president, and what the future, but also the contribution of Law Society has been in the protection and advocacy of human rights in Uganda.
Yes, thank you so much, Priscilla Regina, here in Nakasero. Indeed, I'm speaking to the outgoing president of Uganda Law Society, that is Fiona Nabasa Wall. Of course, talking about her term and then the task for the incoming one. First of all, I should say congratulations for being able to complete your term, 2 terms.
Thank you very much. I'm also very grateful. It's been quite a time. Yes.
When you say quite a time, that means, of course, leadership comes with opportunities and challenges.
Yeah.
Tell me about the story, your story.
My story, wow. I think it's our story. I've led with a council of 9 and a secretariat of about 130 people. And leadership committees and clusters of about 400 lawyers. So I'd say that it was a crazy time. We got into the presidency in the wake of in the middle of a lockdown. Our peculiar issues were things to do with being declared essential, being given stickers. We had to create a task force to help people because almost immediately we got into the office, our lawyers were being arrested. So that also started a whole new level of advocacy. We had to create a helpline, provide lawyers with pro bono services. We had to do things that we had never really done before, like create a task force for the elections. I think you remember when people disappeared and we had to get a task force of 100 lawyers all over the country, and I want to thank those.
You're talking about like
lawyers.
People like Nicholas Opio, the November riots, November...
The people from the November riots. There's about 177 people that were declared by the Minister of Internal Affairs to be in custody, although their families were saying they had disappeared. So we put up a task force of about 100 people, and were able to rescue at least, I know that others were rescued by other means and human rights defenders, but at least we were able to get about 103 that were able to serve and rescue. Nicholas Opio was one of our many lawyers that were being arrested for doing their work, persecuted for doing their work. But the good thing that came out of that, I think, was because of our advocacy and fighting, we were able to get the security agencies to the table, and they agreed not to arrest lawyers without letting us know, without due process and without due cause.
You know,
and I think so far that has been one of our greatest achievements in our time. But for on rule of law especially, I think one of our greatest achievements also has been becoming partners with state agencies, because we did release quarterly rule of law reports that named and shamed and brought out issues, but then we also said we as Uganda Law Society would like to be partners. If the Human Rights Enforcement Act is not understood, let's do a colloquium to roll it out, which we did. We said if officers do not understand what due process is when the Law Society says you need to use, let's educate them. And I'm proud to say that we've been able to now do trainings for UPDF and CID officers on issues of human rights, due process, the rights in detention, and torture. So I think that's something. But also we've also done a lot of public interest litigation.
You know, you've done a lot, but I also want to understand, because in your service, 2 years, but still administration and access to justice many people, not only in Kampala but even across the country, still find it as a challenge accessing justice. This is something that should be worked on, not only by lawyers but also everyone. What should be done?
One, we want to applaud the government for the administration of the Judiciary Act, which is now going to see an increase in judicial officers and courts. The president also pledged to do something about prosecutors. But I want to call upon the government, because we had this, the legal aid bill finally got a certificate of financial implication, but it says it's zero financial implication on government. I think that the Constitution alone makes it a legal right to get representation for every Ugandan. So we want the government to commit resources to legal aid, so that this bill is passed not as a private member's bill, but as a national issue, so that everybody has access to justice. I think that's a big deal. Of course, you saw DGF being locked up, being suspended for 2 years. That was very damaging for access to justice. The Human Rights Commission, Uganda Law Society, other legal aid service providers were all literally frozen because of this kind of thing, and now they're going away. So this means that there's a huge gap. But I want to say that when we met His Excellency in September 2021, he did pledge to give some support. So I'm hoping that our new Minister of Justice will look into this. So I think this is one of the things that needs to be done. But the second thing I also believe is we need to get commercial disputes out of the courts. Why? Countries like Singapore, that were at the same level as Uganda in 1963, have used alternative dispute resolution to take commercial disputes out of the courts. The lockdown brought up 2 years of backlog in the courts for all disputes. But imagine if your person has been on remand for 4 years and has never had a court hearing because there are commercial disputes that are being had. But if those were taken out and put in the arbitration centers, put in CADA, put in ICAMEC, put in some centers all over the regional arbitration centers in the country, then we would have, first of all, would loosen the 4 trillion that's stuck in commercial disputes over 14 years, but would also create space for the real issues that need to be deliberated in courts of law.
All right. Fiona Ward, of late we've seen issues or letters flying from the Permanent Secretary Minister of for the Judiciary, but also one coming from a Justice of the Supreme Court, Esther Chisache, doctor. But do you get concerned as an office of court when you see such kind of acrimony and also the administration of justice, the interpretation of the law, but also execution of powers within the judiciary? Do you get concerned?
We are very concerned as the Law Society. We are involved even with the senior councils. We're trying to see how to have this issue resolved. We have to understand that both the Judicial Service Commission and the Office of the Permanent Secretary are created in the Constitution. And the judiciary is created in the Constitution. These are constitutional institutions, but they have different roles and they have different places. But we need to also remember that the independence of the judiciary is a critical pillar for democracy, for any democracy. So even in the carrying out of administrative duties, we have to be very careful not to curb that independence. And why that is something that is necessary, we really need to realize that the issues that have to do with administration are clearly spelled out in the Judiciary Administration Act. What the PS should do on performance and all these things, but we need to realize that the supervisor of all the judges is the Chief Justice, is a person of the Chief Justice, but the institution that is for hiring, firing, doing the performance evaluation of judicial officers is the Judicial Service Commission. So let's respect our institutions. Let's respect the independence of the judiciary. I would also call on the Judicial Service Commission to come out and take their role.
As we wind up, 30 seconds, a message to incoming administration of Uganda Law Society.
The incoming administration, please preserve the neutrality and the independence and the strength strength and the courage of the voice of the Law Society. Remember that Ugandans need you. Be the voice for the voiceless, but also remember that you cannot go it alone. Please ensure that you use the partnerships that are around. Ensure that you use the senior council and the people that have come before us. But also we have serious JLOS partners that have been such invaluable support during this time that you can take advantage of, including the Fourth Estate.
Thank you so much. The beautiful Fiona Nabasa-Wall, outgoing president of the Uganda Law Society. Of course, on Saturday, we shall be seeing the new administration coming in for that function.
Thank you to everyone who has been a support in these 2 years,
all right.
Especially the Fourth Estate.
Thank you so much for appreciating. We shall be knowing who will be the next president of Uganda Law Society on Saturday from that function in Entebbe. Stephen Imbide, now handing you back to studio. Thank you so much for watching Morning at NTV.